this, but I'll use it just in case.
Unless you wanted a music background.
No, thank you. No. Good morning. One more day. And one last time with me. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for attending our town hall for 2023. Usually this is an open meeting for everybody at the conference, and we'll talk a little bit about what CWPA has been up to, some of our challenges, and we are asking you to help us decide where to go from here. So this is our agenda for today, and I think I need to take this because I get restless. This is our agenda for today, and I'll try to power through the first two items and spend more time on the last one because this is where we'll have more discussions. And on your tables, you'll see a lot of papers and QR codes and lots of things, okay? So make sure that you pick one of these because I'll be referencing some of these while I talk. First of all, for those of you who don't know how CWPA is operated, I'm not the only person who does things there. I'm just a public face of the organization as a president, but these are the folks that actually do most of the work, and you don't get to see them very often. So please, if you are here, stand up. So these are the elected members on the EB, Dominic, Al, Erin, Kenny. I'm using first names only because we don't have time for it. You can read that complete name. Daryl, Michelle, and Crystal. If you are here, please stand up so people recognize you. Dominic and Daryl, thank you so much. These are the voting members of the AB. And then we have the ex-officios. I put the title or the role of the AB, so again, I don't have to talk much. But again, if you are here, please stand up. Kelly, Mary, Michael, Jonica, Tracy, Patty, and Wendy. I know we have more people. Okay. Kelly and Tracy, Wendy, and Patty, the journal editors. Okay. Where we are as an organization. So I'll start with one of the important things, which is the culture assessment. You've heard us talk a little bit. Yeah, this is out of sync, no problem. You've heard us talk a little bit here during the conference and before the conference about what CWPA has been doing in terms of culture assessment since 2021. And before I get started on what we've been doing, I'd like to again thank Mark Blauhera and Susan Thomas, former presidents of CWPA, because they are the ones who started this whole thing back in 2021. And then Susan led the whole audit endeavor during her presidency, and I'm here to continue that work. I'm committed to that work, and I'm here to continue doing that. So in 2021, CWPA partnered with 18Create. It's a consulting company that does GEI consulting work, and we've been working a lot to change everything at CWPA. So what has been done so far prior to coming here to Reno? 18Create did a bylaws review, and then did I say something wrong? Okay. And then they did some of the document and statement review. They did a lot of the consultant evaluator service, and I'm glad Shirley Rose is here. They already reviewed and revised all their documents and processes from 1838. And I've attended some of the meetings where these revisions happen, and I'm telling you, these were intense revisions and different iterations of revisions to make sure that all the documents and processes are very inclusive and very equitable. Member and non-member surveys, OEC has run a number of surveys, and they presented about the results from these surveys on Monday. These are the things that happened before we came here to Reno. And then what happened in Reno, which will not stay in Reno, we had listening sessions organized by OEC. They had 2 listening sessions, and they had a booth or a table at the exhibit hall where people can stop by and talk about what they wanted to see at the organization. And then there was a DEI training for the executive board member that happened on Sunday. What's happening right now is that OEC is putting together the final report and recommendations based on all these data that we have collected from the review of the documents, member and non-member surveys, listening sessions, and then they told us that we should have the report in about a month. The most important part is what's upcoming based on that, or what's the next stage, which is not the final stage yet, but this is just what's upcoming. So we will do bylaws revision. We have made some limited bylaws revision, but we still have a lot to do, and this is what we'll start working on after the conference. Document and statements revision, and I'll say more about that in a minute. And addressing all report recommendations. This report will be discussed with the executive board members to see what to do next as an organization, how to continue to work to be more inclusive, more diverse, more equitable, and to establish that sense of belonging for all our members and encourage more non-members to come to the organization and feel that they belong. But one thing I'd like to talk about today, and I know some of you have talked about this, some of you approached me asking about this. I've heard some conversations in the hallways, but it's about time to announce this. The WPA Outcome Statement 3.0 that was last published in 2014 is overdue for a revision, as we all know. 2023 is completely different from 2014 with all the challenges that our field has been facing and the teaching, writing, and WPAs are facing. So it's my honor and pleasure to announce that we now have 2 co-chairs who will chair that committee to start that revision process. And Michelle Batchelor Robinson from Spelman College and Antonio Bird from University of Missouri in Kansas City have graciously agreed to be co-chairs of that committee. And we started talking very briefly because this all happened last week, by the way. That's why we haven't announced it yet, because it was just like everything started happening last week. So these 2 will co-chair the committee. I'll work with them in order to get together the committee, but I'm trying not to interfere in that. I just told them that we need this committee to be as diverse as possible. And when we talk about diversity, I'm talking about gender, race, linguistic background, institutional types, and rank, and areas of expertise, of course, because we want to make sure that not one area will hijack the revision. So this is the first thing I told them, and the 3 of us will have a conversation about who should be on that committee. And then the 3 of us as well will have a list of charges. One thing I emphasized, and more details will come about that, is we will have workshops. Once we have a document that's approved by the AB, we will have lots of workshops in person at conferences or virtual for WPAs to know how to take that document and use it in their programs. Because we don't just want a nice looking document that's housed on our website, and then WPAs is like, okay, I'm not quite sure what to do with this or how to use this in my particular program. So this is part of their charges that I just mentioned in my email, but we will have a lot of discussions in the coming few months. And one thing that I can assure you that everything will be through the AB, the executive board. Nothing is going to be just by me or the committee. Everything has to go through the AB to make sure that nothing goes wrong with this revision. Okay? So if you see any of these wonderful humans and scholars, please thank them for agreeing to chair this committee. Any questions so far? I don't have a question, but it's a comment, or I don't have a question, but it's a...
I can just speak loud.
Okay, she has teacher voice.
The last point was the executive board will make sure that nothing goes wrong with the revision. And I'm wondering what do you mean by that? What would that look like?
What we mean is we want to make sure...
Repeat the question for the folks who are streaming.
Okay, that's a good point. So the question was, what did I mean by if anything could go wrong with the revision and what that means or what it looks like. So many things can go wrong with this kind of work. It can be like it goes in a different direction that WPAs may not be able to use a document. It can be directed towards one ideology over the other at the expense of teaching writing and the work that WPAs do day in and day out. It can be more suited for one type of institution rather than the other. We have diverse institutions that we work in, from R1 all through regional intensive, regional comprehensive, nothing is intensive here, and 2-year colleges. So we just want to make sure that everything goes well and that this document actually does what it's supposed to do to help WPAs revise their curriculum and know what to do at their institutions. Does this answer your question? No? Okay.
The question is what procedures will the executive, the last attempted revision did not go well, and I'm wondering what has changed, or what procedures, or what do you mean by what the executive board will do?
So first of all, today is July 19th. This is my 19th day as a president. I will answer to what I can do. I'm not in place to answer about what happened in the last 2.5 years because it's not my story alone to tell. And I hate to tell that story while people who were involved in that story are not present to share their perspective. What I can say is the AB was not much involved in the previous process. So we were looped in at the very last stage. So that was wrong because the AB is the governing body of the organization. This time, I'm making sure that the AB is involved every step of the way to make sure that everything actually goes right. Dominic, I'm sorry.
Thank you. And I can speak to that a little bit as well, since I was involved in this process, or what I think was a poor process last time around. And I'll just be honest, and because I have little to lose. Part of the issue was largely lack of communication. And I think the sense that the EB needs to be involved from the beginning isn't to control the process or to control the outcome, but to control the process. That is the job of the EB, is to follow the bylaws of the organization and use those bylaws. They were not used last time. Last time there were decisions made that should have gone through the EB. And if you want to read the bylaws, it does explain what the president's job is. The president's job, which we want to stick to, is really to set agenda, to be able to manage the organization, but certainly not to make decisions without the EB. All decisions go through the EB. And that's proper and democratic. And these are democratically, they're a representative body. So last time, And also, the people that were asked to do this revision, I don't think we're given enough sense of what the process would be on the other end from the start. I think that's what Lily is talking about doing, is saying, if you do this work, what's going to happen next is this and this and this, and there was confusion about that. And so when it got to the point where this revision was completed by the task force that did it, and the sense was, all right, now we're going to bring this to the membership to look at and get their comments. That was when the objection happened and the whole blow up happened. Was, no, this is our document. We're not going to let you do that, and we're going to and we're going to take it back. That is my perspective on it, but I think that's pretty accurate as to what happened. And it wasn't because of anybody not using goodwill. It was because there was not a clear process from the start. So I think what you're saying is the idea of saying, let's just say what the steps will be. There is precedent for this. I mean, I talked about the history in my keynote. One of the parts of my history was the very first WPA workshop I went to was the one in which the WPA outcome study 1.0 was being discussed. There were workshops, keynotes, working groups, everybody in the organization got to weigh in on whether this was a useful and accurate, and now in this case, equitable document. That, I think, is what we're talking about doing. There will be a working group that develops it, but it will be the general knowledge and the general consensus of the organization that has to say this is a document that we agree upon. So I don't think you're talking about control. I think what we're talking about here is process, and that's what a governing body does, in my understanding. Does that help a little bit?
Yes, it does. And can I ask a follow-up question to that?
So Lily, right?
Actually, to either, but you mentioned there's some revision of the bylaws that's ongoing. Are there any relevant revisions to the bylaws that might impact that process?
No, because first of all, the revision of documents is completely up to us. There is nothing specific about revising our documents or what kind of statements we have or anything like that in the bylaws. And then when I talked to OECD team before about specifically the WPA outcome statement revision and other documents that CWPA has, they said, we cannot interfere with that because that's your field. We can only give you the DEI framework, and then you use that to revise all your documents. So that's why these two scholars are going to lead that work, because they have extensive knowledge about WPA work. They bring a lot of diversity to the committee, not just because they are both people of color, but we have gender, we have everything, we have lots of diversity already between the two of them. And I made it clear that we want WPAs, or people who do WPA scholarship or WPA work, to be on the committee. Because I think, following up on what Dominic said, one of the problems that happened last time is that many people on that committee were not WPAs, did not do much work around WPA work. So there was disconnect between, again, the disconnect does not mean that they meant bad things or they have malicious reasons. Not at all. This is not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that if you don't understand WPA work, you can put a lot of things, but it's like, okay, as a WPA, I'm not sure how to use this or how this is relevant to the work I do every day. Does this answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, long story short,
The answer is no. There aren't any-
yeah, because the bylaws have nothing to do with our documents. They don't dictate how this is a job of the ED. And I'm so proud of our current ED because it's as diverse as it can be. So I think this will mean that we are in good position to do that division.
So I hear all of that, and I'm really glad about all of that. I'm not in any of these rooms or any of these conversations. But from where I stand, one version of this is that this was a conflict between the executive board and the outcome statement committee. And this process seems, from an outside view, to replicate the situation that came before, that there is, and this is going to be the executive board and the outcome statement committee, And I'm just wondering whether there are other places to have third or fourth or other parts of this conversation, whether they're, and I don't know what those would be. I don't know how they come back to a membership. I don't know how there are other voices in the room for this. But from an outside version, it feels as though the same kind of parties are re-entering the same room with the same possibility for change. And I hear the point you make, Dominic, about better communication, and I think that was part of it. That's not the only narrative about the problem that has been part of the public conversation that I have access to. Communication is one way of framing it. Racism and institutional insensitivity is another piece of that. And so I guess, I don't know what a solution is, but I would be interested, I would be more reassured as a member who's been outside of this, if there were something that I could see that had changed in that process that didn't look like it was going to put the same kind of conditions back together without having, and so we've done all of this analysis and we've done all of this input, we've done all of this thinking. I'd like to think that something had changed that I, from an outside perspective, could see. And maybe that hasn't happened yet, and maybe that's part of what goes forward with the negotiations, but that would be reassuring to me, to be able to say, we're gonna try it a little differently, and we want to show you what's different and why we think that might help.
Thank you so much, Shelley, for this. So I'll explain. I mean, I don't have the exact process set in stone yet, because as I said, we just started these conversations last week, and I started my presidency 18 days ago. So, and I was so absorbed in the conference. But anyway, what happened last time is the committee was given green light to do whatever they wanted with the original document, the 3.0 document. No specific charges, and the AD was not involved whatsoever from the very beginning. We were only looped in when the final document was there. This time is going to be different. First of all, it's going to be a different committee, different executive board. The composition of the executive board is completely different. It's more diverse. And this is one important thing I need to emphasize. And then the second thing is there was lack of communication throughout the entire process. We didn't know what the task force was doing. The task force didn't share anything with us until that meeting when we just saw the document for the first time a few days prior to the meeting. This time, this is not going to happen. And when I say the executive board will have a role, as Dominic explained, we're not controlling the process. We're not telling the task force what to do or the committee what to do or what not to do. We are just going to bring more perspective about what WPAs may need or how to make the document more feasible and pragmatic for WPAs to use. But we're not going to dictate what the committee does or doesn't do. That's why we have more than capable co-chairs. They will be in charge of that, not me, not the AD. Okay.
Thanks. I just wanted to kind of build on what you're saying. Lillian had mentioned that I think the composition of the task force will have more WPA representation as well, as she pointed out earlier. So I think not only has the ED changed, but I think the task force committee will be more aware of the kinds of considerations that could come up as the document is reviewed. But I think your point about it seeming the same is a really good one, and it just makes me reflect about what possibilities there might be. And I think, you know, as we get to the activity where we're like going to be doing a little bit of writing, we should think about this collectively and maybe try to capture some thoughts that will go forward to the ED, and we can kind of contemplate how to set up the process. I was talking with a fellow WPA about this, and she said the problem with processes is that they can be used as tools of white supremacy, and processes slow change. But also, we don't know how to get things done without process.
Amy?
Thanks. I've heard a couple of people say that
part of the solution, sorry. I heard a couple of people say that part of the solution is including more WPAs into the conversation. And I definitely understand how having a WPA perspective to make sure that the outcomes are workable on a programmatic level is important. But I can also understand how, from an outside perspective, that might look like controlling and kind of diminishing voices of scholars and teachers who have expertise that isn't necessarily in WPA, but is in the areas of linguistic diversity and other kinds of elements that we need represented. And so I'm not saying that's necessarily how I view it, but I think that's something to keep in mind, that the membership of the task force can't only be WPAs, and I don't know if that's what you're saying, but that perception could be that we're just trying to take back control of it, which is not, I don't think, what the intent is, but managing that, I think, will be an important piece of the dialogue around the task force as well.
Thank you, Amy. That's an excellent point. And let me explain to those of you who don't know Antonio. Antonio is not a BPA. But he brings the linguistic diversity, linguistic justice, and technology aspects to that conversation. So one of the co-chairs is not a WPA, but he brings that area of expertise, and this is what we are trying to, this is what I communicated to the two co-chairs, but everything will be fine-tuned in the coming months. But one of the things I told them that we need to address racial justice, linguistic justice, technology, AI, that's Antonio's area now, and other areas of DEI that they see fit into our WPA work. The point about teachers who are not WPAs, I respect that perspective, but we are not Cs, we are CWPA. So I have to keep that central in our work, because I'm not talking mostly to teachers, I'm mostly talking to WPA. So these are the people that we serve. These are the people who come to us asking for support. So what we can do is make sure that all these areas are represented on the committee while being WPAs. And this is like, Antonio and I, before Michelle was looped in the conversation, we were starting already to say, okay, we need WPAs from two-year colleges, we need WPAs from HBCUs. We need, like on the committee, we need somebody who does more with linguistic justice or racial justice, because not everybody has everything. So we're trying to like make sure that the representation on the committee is not just that they are WPAs, but they can be doing WPA scholarship without necessarily being a WPA, but they know how to bring these areas of expertise and loop them into WPA work. Does this answer your point?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. More questions. I love this conversation. This is very productive for us, because this will help us. I'm taking not most, like everything we're discussing here to the AB meeting right after. So thank you for this. More questions? Okay, we'll have more time at the end if anybody has more questions. Now, a few years ago, we started sharing our financial situation with our members and non-members here at the conference out of transparency. And we wanted people to know what we're doing, what kind of money we have or actually don't have, to help us, like to just give everybody an idea. So I'll be presenting some slides from the treasurer report that was compiled by Mary McCall, our treasurer. She's not here, she's traveling for business. So I hope I'll be able to answer questions that you may have as much as I can. So this is the March 2023 operating budget. We used to have a PNC account that was our main account. Now we've moved to Chase, PayPal, where we do all the membership and registration, everything go through. These are our revenues. So we have the membership, we have the WPA journal, conference registration, sponsorship. These are the things we still need to pay. out of that budget. So the audit, like for the presence here, it's about $12,000. So that doesn't even include the DEI training for the EB because that was factored in the original contract. But again, this is essential work for the organization, so we are happy to pay for that because, as somebody said it before, we are not after a Band-Aid or just like sweeping it under the rug and say everything is good, just people don't understand us. No, we knew there were problems, and working with the OEC has made that clear and give us a clear path forward. Or a path forward is not very clear until we see the final report. So these are our expenses from the 2023 colloquium and this conference. We still have, Jim is feeling nervous already because you have no idea how much work went into the budget of this conference, but it's all the local committees work, especially Jim. Jim is just like, he was like, oh, we can do this, or we need to address this, or whatever. So thank you guys. This is our budget. These are planning. So we pay for the accounting company that does our taxes. This is our PayPal service fee, website, printing and shipping the journal. And of course, we have awards and grants. It's not much, but it's part of what we pay for. And then this is our current operating budget until we pay everything for the conference and OEC. Any questions about our financial situation? Okay, it seems that I'm not the only one who doesn't understand numbers very well, so, okay. Now, the challenges. This has been, like, we have been facing some severe challenges with the organization, and again, out of transparency, I'm sharing those, not just transparency, but because we need your help in order to address these challenges. We cannot address those by ourselves. So the first one is leadership positions. We've been really struggling to get leadership positions filled. Nomination for the vice president, nominations for the executive board membership, and we have our secretary and treasurer are rotating out very soon, and we need to fill these positions, but we've been having trouble that people did not really put their names forward to serve. We understand this is a huge labor commitment. Some of the positions come with some benefits. On your tables, you'll see the call for leadership positions. You have a description of the treasurer, a description of the secretary positions and what benefits they bring. We have revised the bylaws around the vice president nominations in the past, and this was completely inequitable and completely exclusionary. It used to be only members who served on the executive board can run for the vice president. We changed our bylaws to open it to anybody who's been involved in organization work in any capacity. So I think this removes a huge barrier to nominations. The other thing was the terms of service. It used to be 6 years, total of 6 years. 2 years as vice president, 2 years as president, 2 years as immediate past president. That's 6 years on top of the 3 years on the executive board. No, not many people in our field are willing to commit almost a decade of their life to serve an organization. That was kind of privilege, or it was coming from a privileged position. And we removed that barrier again by reducing the terms to only 3 years. And now that people don't have to have served on the executive board, so that reduced the commitment tremendously. We really hope that if you see yourself interested in being part of the leadership team, vice president, secretary, treasurer, EB members, please talk to us if you have any questions, but please make sure that you get involved. I mean, this is how things happen. This is how change happens. By being involved in committees, on the EB, in the leadership team. We extended the deadline after updating the call for vice president nominations to July 31st. It's kind of like nerve-wracking for me personally to be in this position without a vice president, because the vice president is responsible for, like, we work together as a team, and having one less or one fewer member of the team, this is really kind of like problematic for us. The second thing is committees. We've been having a hard time recruiting members or recruiting people to serve on committees. You don't have to be a CWPA member to serve on a committee. You only have to be a member to chair a committee. I understand that we've had a long list of committees in the past, and this may not be feasible at this point, especially post-COVID, and people are kind of like trying to preserve their energy and time and set boundaries and everything. So we are looking at all the committees today at the EP meeting to see the essential one that we need to keep, so we can have hopefully more people willing to serve. This is a good opportunity to get to know how the organization works and get first-hand experience with everything, because there is always a connection between the committee chairs and the AB. They report to the AB. So everybody knows what the organization is up to, and they have a hand in shaping what we do. So again, please, when you see that call for committee work, please put your name forward and encourage others to do the same, because this is huge. I mean, this is national service. So this is, I mean, I know we all do institutional service, and we need that national service adds a lot of weight on your for your tenure and promotion or reappointment letters or anything of that sort. And then conference citing. This is one problem for us as well. So right now we have conference site for 2026, University of Wyoming, but we don't have 2024 or 2025. We put the call several times, we didn't get proposals, and then I said, okay, we need to think outside the box and start doing things differently. So two things you'll notice if you have the QR code about host CWPA, you'll see the entire call. And two things we have changed in this call. Number one, we are asking, or we are encouraging joint proposals by institutions in the same area, because that reduces the load of planning the conference tremendously. These three have been heroes to do all that work by themselves. And I don't wish it for anybody to do that amount of work alone again. But if we have like 2 or 3 teams from 2 or 3 institutions, this will reduce the labor work among all these members. And the second change we have made in the call, as you can see it, is we want to bring CWPA to campus rather than corporate America hotels. Negotiations will be much easier. The conference cost will be reduced tremendously, making it more accessible to everybody. And it will bring more visibility to your campus, to your university. Catering will be much easier. Dorm rooms, so grad students and junior colleagues without many resources can stay. Similar to what computers and writing does. Because seriously, not much, like almost 95% of our budget went to this hotel. And Jim and Todd and Katie can tell you more about this, but it's been really tough to manage the conference. So if you are interested, talk to me, talk to these fine humans who've been doing that work for the last 10 months. They have tons of experience. And one thing I can tell you, if you're interested in taking on that role and host CWPA, we have all the documents that can help you start off very well. We have all planning documents and spreadsheets and whatnot that we inherited from the Sacramento team. we updated them, we added to them, and then we are so happy to share them with whoever is willing to take that commitment next. Yes, Todd?
Has there been any talk of doing it like every other year, like writing research across borders?
Yes, we have thought about this, but now given that University of Wyoming is hosting the 2026 and they don't want to change that date because it's the 50-year anniversary of the Wyoming resolution. So they are really set on that year. So if we have 2024 conference host, then we can start skipping. And this actually will be good because it will alternate with AWAC, because we have a lot of overlap between the two organizations. So yes, that's a consideration. We have not discussed it yet on the AB, but that's a consideration. But we need 2024 conference to run. So please host us in your backyard or in your university backyard, in your dorm room. The last thing, and this is part of the activity that we'll do in a minute, is membership. We understand that we haven't been doing much to our members recently, and that's why people were like, why should I pay my dues? Why should I join the organization? I'm not seeing anything happen, which I completely understand. We were under unique circumstances that made us like focus more on ourselves and how to make the organization better before we can start reaching out to our members or offer services. We really need more diversity in our membership. We're seeing that increase, and that's a good sign. And Kelly can tell you more about this. But we are nowhere close to where we want to be. We want to have more people, more WPAs from SLACs, from HBCUs, from tribal colleges, from two-year colleges, from small regional comprehensive institutions. We want more representation, more diversity. We like the executive board, we don't know the circumstances and the needs and the demands and the challenges of every single WPA, so we can know how to address these. Without having them in our membership, we don't know how to address these challenges or to support our members. And the other thing is engagement. Again, I admit that as an organization, we haven't done a good job in communication, but the last couple of years between the pandemic, everything that has been going on CWPA, these are not small things, and they definitely changed our dynamics a little bit, but we are trying to reverse this and to be more connected. And this is one of the things that you will help us figure out in a few minutes. Okay, so where to go from here? We recently formed 2 affiliations with TICA, Two-Year College Association, and GSOL, the Global Society of Online Literacy Educators. I don't know why the RS are not visible, but it's okay. The reason we formed these 2 affiliations is to, number one, we haven't done a good job talking to our two-year college WPAs. So this is one way to start making that happen, by forming this affiliation with TICA, and then we'll start offering programming between the 2 organizations to serve WPAs at two-year colleges, especially with placement, open admission, and other things. I had a very productive meeting with Joan Giordano, TICA chair, yesterday, and we have a lot of exciting things coming to both CWPA and TICA members. So this is one thing we are trying to address here. The other thing is GSOL. We know that online courses, online writing programs have exploded, not just because of the pandemic, but they started before the pandemic. And now we have like WPAs who run, is Erin here? Okay. One of our EB members, she is a WPA of an online writing program. So this is completely different from online teaching and online instruction that we've been reading about and doing, but administering a whole program online is a completely different ballgame. And that's why we're trying to, again, work with GSOL for WPAs in serving in these capacities. And I'm in conversation with GSOL right now to start offering virtual workshops for these WPAs. And again, I don't want to say, what I want to say is we are intentional with which organizations to partner with, because again, we're trying to think of WPAs, our folks, what they need, what will help them thrive and do a better job, and they feel supported as they do that job. If you have an idea or if you have a suggestion of what other organizations we may partner with, please let us know. We are happy to initiate that conversation. Next, and this is exciting for me personally. Yeah, more QR codes, like there is no such thing as too many QR codes. So starting next month, we are rolling in a series of virtual workshops on WPA-related topics. These topics, by the way, were handed down to me from previous workshop leaders, the WPA workshop leaders. They suggested some of these topics because they see a huge demand among WPAs. When they attended the workshop, they said, oh, we wanted to know more about this. So I took this, and we have 5 workshops already scheduled. The first one on anti-racist program curriculum development redesign is actually open for registration right now. So you can go ahead and register for that. And we discussed, like I discussed yesterday with Joan Giordano, we're going to offer one in October for 2-year colleges, WPAs on placement. And we are working on other workshops. I'm in conversation with GSOL and other entities to see what other workshops we can offer to our members. As you can see, this would be on Friday afternoon, so when WPAs are ready to put the week to rest, just come recharge with us and engage in this conversation. Again, in the activity we'll do, and I'll keep talking about that, in 2 minutes, literally. Please tell us what else you need us to do. These are the things that other WPAs told us about, and now it's your time to tell us what else you need us to do. I like that. And now the time has come for the activity. Hooray! So on your tables, you'll see a handout or a worksheet. I don't know what to call it. But yeah, the one with the boxes, similar to this, but no colors. What do you need from CWPA? And by you, I mean you personally and your colleagues. From your conversations here at the conference, from your conversations with your WPA friends and colleagues, what can CWPA do to make you feel that you belong to this organization? I have some tentative topics here, but this is complete. That's why we have a what else category, to put anything that they have missed. What kind of academic and professional support you need from us? Policies, documents, statements, events, engagement, and networking. What can we do to keep you connected to each other and to the organization in between conferences, especially if we decide to go every other year? Mentoring. What kind of mentoring do you want us? We have a mentoring committee, but they don't know what people need, so they can form their agenda and start reaching out to WPA. So please help us with this. And then what else? We'll do this for the coming 20 minutes so I can have time to wrap up at the end. And ED members will be sitting at your tables not to control the discussion. They will be taking notes. Because these notes will be reported back to the ED in our meeting at 10:30 today. So whatever you're going to share with us here is going to be the main thing we discuss at the ED today to know what we can do moving forward. Any questions? Oh, I'm not sure this is a second. That's fine. Yes, Ken. Okay, you're giving me the okay. So 20 minutes, folks. Please give it all out on your handout. Okay? Thank you. Oh, thank you, I have one. Thank you so much.
That was quick. Okay. Yeah, no. I just saw you on an island by yourself.
There's 80 people at the UN. Yeah.
People are over here, sorry. I know, right?
Yeah. Is there, so I'm just reading this.
Fine, I'm supposed to be keeping notes.
Yeah.
And we can read the event, it's not panels.
Yeah, I was.
I mean, I don't mind it, but.
Yeah.
You know, but I do think like it's more. A lot of people travel. I think it's. Right. But I wonder now too if like
that's, if you're not in contact, 48 about the, you know, do the virtual option.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna jump out and appreciate everything. This was great.
Thank you so much for
Yeah, sure. Well, I just think, I mean, it's hard to negotiate
Being as.
telling the truth without people feeling like they're picking on people. The truth is, there was no communication. And I think the reason why the bylaws are important is because he wasn't allowed to do what he did.
you.
And then he knows it himself. I mean, and he is.
Remember what we said before that meeting, that we follow the bylaws, we're going to use liberty, none of that
But he
happened.
asked for me as parliamentarian to tell him what the bylaws said. I told him, and he said he wasn't going to follow them. And so it's I don't want to pick on him, but and I'm glad he's come back around and understanding his mistakes. That's good. I'm glad, but he needs to say that.
I know,
Because
but
he's got this following of people that think he was abused.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case. But
I think it wasn't much about Malcolm, it was about
yeah, exactly.
because of everything that
Well, they set Mark up.
that
And
they
Mark
did.
is a nice guy.
Yeah,
They set him up.
yeah, because of everything they did publicly after that. So
Things-
so this is where everything went
Well,
wrong.
the
But
truth is, it's gonna,
Sherry reminded me today, it's like, you have been busy for
Yeah.
you're not supposed to answer for anything that's happened at the
Exactly, exactly.
So I use the same idea that she gave me, and it's like, one thing I've been thinking about as I expect them to come up today, definitely. That it's not just my story. There's one person from 80 members, yes, and was harmed more than others. Again, that's not my story, but others being present to tell you their side of the story.
No, and that's, so you're right, but I think we start from here, where we are now.
Yeah.
And we move forward, and those who don't like what we're doing will not be part of this, but you're right, to serve the WPA, that's our, that's what people pay to do.
And that's what I said, like.
And we're not a terrible group, people shout like, oh, the power structure's taking over, WPA is really fine.
You have no power.
We're trying to do our job, so it's not like we are trying to control
And
it.
there is a governing body in every kind of institution or organization.
Yes.
Things don't just go randomly.
And we believe in justice. I mean, the truth is, most WPAs believe in justice. We just want
And-
to get
and
stuff
the-
done.
and the-
There's no reason to fight with people. It's just whoever wants to be part of this group. It's going to take a while to rebuild it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
That's
things
okay.
take time, but as I was telling, I don't know who last time, was like, anything that's worthy takes
Right.
time
Right.
to do.
Right, and I do think that we're going back to our roots too. I mean, the idea of doing this on college campuses, making it affordable, that's what it used to be. I mean,
I know.
it used to be, I mean, I went to the University of Delaware, I stayed in dorm, it was great, it was fun.
Yeah,
It's
and
cheap and
this is
affordable.
this is what we need to do. This is part of being equitable and inclusive.
Exactly.
People who don't have summer funds, people who don't have access to funds to start with, but they want to be here. They don't have to pay tons of money to stay in a hotel room.
Right. Yeah, I really think that's
And
crucial.
for the organization, the money we've put in the hotel
So if there's something.
thing could have been used differently.
Yeah, exactly. And there are other kinds of, and there's actually more bonding goes on when you're here, people go in their own rooms, they stay by themselves more. When it used to be on campuses, you didn't want to stay in your room because they were popular rooms.
Yeah.
You were more social. Even, and I even talked to Mark about this, and he said, even doing this like a, one of those campgrounds or something like that, it's more interactive. But doing it in a hotel, everybody gets separated from each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like even this, with the town hall, I would also recommend this, whenever we do it. Instead of the opening reception, do a town hall. Whenever-
Or make
or
it.
first thing on Wednesday.
Yes.
I mean, first thing on.
Yes, I think that
First morning.
the change, the flip model that we have this time happens really often.
Yeah, yeah. But have the town hall as the first session,
Yes,
like and so
It
it's
sets the
Thursday
tone.
morning, whatever morning is the first session.
yeah, it sets the tone and we have more presence.
It's like the opening general session of seats, except make it interactive.
Yeah, and what I'm having to do today is I'm going to send the slides to all the conference
Right.
participants and then ask them to complete that task and send me that answer, so they get their voices heard.
Yeah, but I think, people have to leave, and they're not able to stay.
Oh,
Yeah. So I think,
oh, okay,
I
thank
think we
you.
need. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna run. Thank you. This was great. Appreciate it. Take care. And I'll talk soon. Yeah, we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Kind of, interpret your attention. It's used as something like that. Really helpful. And I think that was I to the staff. I would absolutely buy that. If we had someone to know right at the or like that
I'm sorry. But if you say type that assessment workshop, well, if you don't have to go to no, my point was, yeah. Was that something that?
Sure. Like,
What would be helpful is to use your
I was gonna say, I want to do
Yeah. Sorry, no, I'm not trying to. Reading out of the reason there is a
It was yeah. She said like she was looking around and smiling, what's an update? Honestly, all of them, like, grass is really especially like. Or wanting to aspect is matching people up based on what I can use a year-long membership period. They want anyone being like, so that's what is that essentially. First, we would organize a monthly and then they had and the academy paid about check your process in the network class. There's resources, reach out to them if they want. But and then there's and that was helpful because it felt a little less awkward than randomly fanboying.
Position, and I don't think that's what we're
Recognition is great, right? These are, right? But also just like, I do a lot of things. No, you didn't make that, you made it.
This is the level of.
And I would find
Communication contract. Split here, because we have to write out a here's a level of communication, their ability to do. And so it's really what is one
Yeah, facilitate those connections and make it clear, like, here's the expectation.
Yeah, it's just
Right?
here.
So that everybody's kind of signing on to the same thing.
But it's not like organizations.
It's more so that we're about it. And then there's those issues where you're issues with this particular thing. And I want to work with someone for the next 2 weeks about this. And then here's a list of both sides. Just do like control F. Here's and see like who's available.
We have about 6 minutes left.
Right. And they could be like, look, it has a similar institution that I would be like, have everything covered. Have that there during that first year. Yes.
Because after these sessions, as well as that, or the conversation that happened in our
I think I wrote down on the events list that was more than.
Yeah. I can share that story. Yeah, that was part of this, they were like, when this is the whole day, because it's got different quotes. Like breakfast money.
I know, it doesn't
I've never. Going ahead and taking all of the. Somewhat discouraging, like I was but it
Okay. Do you think you need more time? Okay, so 5 more minutes. It's good that the conversation is going.
I had a great experience on my team, and I love the community. The first time very well. I'm also a
Yes, you did.
conversation. Conversation is fine. It's good to confront, it's good to talk, it's good to hear what it is. And I feel engaging. I
think folks who are at, so
they and that's
No, one group asked for more time, so keep going, keep going.
So I think, like that, thinking about, yeah.
So yeah, the application is. I don't see it as advisory.
So what we change to what is compliant, not everyone else.
Yeah, I like that. I was thinking there.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Right, so there's
I hate to be that person, but I need to interrupt. So we can have some time to hear back from the tables before we wrap up. Okay, so we'd like to get just a brief report from each table to see what the conversation has been about. So let's do that in the coming 9 minutes or something, so we can hear from each table before we wrap up. So, and we have a floating mic there with Jim. So which group is going to start?
Hi, this is Tracy, one of the WPA editors. What do you want us to hit everything or just?
Just brief notes about what your table discussed, like,
We solved all the problems.
okay, meeting dismissed.
I was getting just a couple of, maybe just a couple of things we came up with, not to go through everything. Got some smart people here. One thing that actually seems doable, I'll start with that one. We're talking about travel funds and how do we get our grad students back involved in the conference the way they were in the past and maybe in better ways. Knowing that funding is a problem for especially, well, for all of us in the summer, some of our schools, you have to like find the right person to roll the purse to give us the money. But for grad students, this is especially hard. Could we set up a travel fund that we can donate to? So that in person at the conference, we can send around the QR code, people can Venmo, people pay credit card money into that, $10 here, $5 there, $20, that adds up. And then that travel fund can be something that's used for grad students to apply. And we would find someone who is smarter than me that can come up with a great equitable way to maybe have folks apply, ask them questions like, hey, do you get travel funds from your institution and have you already used them all? Well, then maybe you're not high on the list. Hey, are you presenting at the conference? Articulate how attending the conference is going to help develop you in your professional career goals. What's that connection? Maybe those are things we could ask that would help with that. So we thought that might be something that's practical and easy to set up. But again, we would need someone to help kind of monitor and another committee or not, I don't know, who could help with how, and maybe WPA could actually help us with that to help figure out applications and how we could disperse the funds to help folks get here as grad students. Maybe another thing I can touch on, we started, or that we think a lot of people may find useful, is we need to have some support, and I don't know what that is, but it could be in training, hands-on, or like Katie said, I think it equivalent to like the CEs, thinking about the evaluators, but could we have something like assessment consultants? That when it comes time for us to be looking at our own data and making arguments at our institution, if we had a consultant that we would be able to have a virtual meeting with and say, hey, go over this with me and think through what am I looking at, how can I make arguments with this data, what am I actually seeing here, what are mistakes I made, what are ways I can, even think through the process of setting up assessment, especially if you're in WPA or a new curriculum to set up a revision and you need to start thinking through a bigger plan, that we would have a consultant or a group of people that we would be able to tap into. And then if something came from all of that, that could be something like a hands-on, step-by-step resource for how to use your data to make arguments to your purpose, or at your institution, kind of a thing that's more generic, that would be useful too. I know we've had assessment workshops in the past at the conference, but it might be time to revitalize that in different ways, I don't know. And then I think another big thing we talked about was mentoring. And wouldn't it be very cool if we had like this mega database of people willing to be mentors that articulated who they are, where they are, the types of institutions, positionality of individual identity, to all the way to their communication contract with an eventual mentee. I'm willing to email you once a month. I'm willing to email you, phone call you, Zoom with you every week, talk to you any day, whatever those things are they can articulate. Those who want to be mentored can go into that database, find a match. But then the one thing we kind of always have problems with is, as rhetoric and writing people, WPAs especially, we're guilty of doing too much work and invisible labor. So how can we compensate people, and if that's even possible, to compensate mentors in some way? Hey, you get $10 off your registration. I know I'm thinking small, but something doable. I'll shut up so more people can talk. But those are just a few things we came up with.
This is great. And that's why we have these conversations, because I'll just say something about anything that has to do with funding. We could not offer anything in the past because the conference didn't exist and we didn't visit our main stream of revenue. But we are thinking about grad students especially, and we expect to hear more about getting grad students involved in so many things and being mentored and doing more work at the organization level. So thank you so much for these meetings. Okay, Pat.
Hi, I'm Patty. I can't tell if any, okay, cool. So we can on to like the idea of mentoring and informal mentoring. What we kind of, had ideas about, and then just sort of randomly talk about stuff instead of me talking about it. But thinking about it in like informal co-mentoring groups, based on affinity. So we're talking about like, hey, if you're at the conference, you're, hey, someone just said they're a single mom. Who are they? I want to talk to them. Like having sort of informal thing happen, but fostering an informal thing to happen. So maybe like, so I like the idea of having the list, but then the question is always like, who's gonna do that list? And self-informed, but then like there's, so the idea would be, and this is also connected to our discussion of regional, so I'm going all over the place. So the discussion of regionals where there are some areas that have really active regional conferences like the Carolinas, and I'm really jealous whenever people talk about what they're doing. Is that like for some places where it isn't as active, maybe putting together that like a regional conference is scary, but if we could say, hey, all you people in, in Florida, here's a time on Zoom when you can get together and meet. And then like that's, and we have like a regional ambassador, and then they could sort of grassrootsy build something more if they wish. But doing that in terms of affinity, doing that in terms of regions, and I think the organization wouldn't have to do a ton of coordination work there. It's just, accurate sort of situation in that case.
So just for the record, Patty is now in charge of the Okay, approved. Next.
The other couple of things that popped up, I'm not going to talk about everything, but a couple of things I thought were cool. And there was a suggestion of like, we like the idea of the virtual workshops, but maybe it would be cool to have sort of the phrase was like the core curriculum for the virtual workshops. We could say like every September there's going to be like a workshop about this thing. So we could, and that would be helpful, especially for folks who can't do like the big workshop in the summer, is that they can at least say, hey, could I get like a little tiny bit of money to do this one workshop that I know is going to happen about this topic? That would be cool. The other thing was, it would be neat to have an outcome statement for like a WPA job for folks who don't have WPA job descriptions. I'm just like, here are the things that I want to, like goals that I want to set for myself internally as a WPA, and that to be cool.
Also, Patty is in charge of that. That's a great idea, because one of the things the idea that I kept hearing much during the conference was those who do they are informal WPA. They are doing WPA work, but without a formal title or resources or job description or anything. So that would be a huge resource. Like, okay, like Dominic was saying, like he was called to run the writing program during his interview. And it's like, oops, I need to do that. I have no idea where to start. So this can be a huge resource for WPA. Thank you so much.
So I think what we talked about a lot was kind of building trust again within the organization, and what kinds of things could be helpful with that. Like creating structures where people sort of know what they're volunteering for was one specific thing that came out. I was sharing that, we had like 80 folks who volunteered to serve on committees, but whenever it came time to seek chairs, it was a little bit more difficult. But we have, resources. What can we do to make it really transparent what being a chair would entail? And making that really clear, I think, was one thing that really came out. Another thing that we talked about was potential partnerships with folks who are doing adjacent work, specifically with TESOL, where you have a lot of administrative folks.
I think I know where this came from.
Yeah, but also looking at places where folks are coming together to talk about writing instruction. Like there's an HBCU consortium that David shared a little bit about, just seeing what we could do to support some of those spaces and connect. And another thing that Kate brought up was just contingent faculty that are in WPA positions. They could use just resources, visibility, and just the desire for like frank conversation about what happened in the past and where we're going, and as much clarity that can be offered that's tangible. And we talked about how both that's really needed, and people want it, and it's difficult to find spaces and foster spaces for that kind of exchange to actually happen whenever people are stretched. Okay, is that fair?
That's wonderful.
Hello. We suggested a lot of different things, and y'all let me know if I forget anything. So one was having a budgeting workshop to the list of workshops that we have, and the budgeting workshop can talk about creative means of getting funding. Also, we talked about the idea of having a database or a document where people can find out where they can get funding for activities, for contingent faculty, etc. We had talked about WPA support of adjunct faculty and maybe sponsoring adjunct faculty to come to the conference. We talked about having standing sessions and workshops at the conference on global issues that affect WPA. And that includes contingency faculty, et cetera. We also talked about under policies, talking about what happened regarding the boycott, naming it, thanking people who participated, letting them know, hey, this is what's happened, this is what we learned from it, this is what we're going to do. And we also talked about when we're doing drafting of documents, having a step between the committee doing the document and maybe having public say of the draft and then getting community support. So that's what we talked about.
Thank you so much. I just want to address the funding part. I'll share that now. In my meeting with Joan Jordan yesterday, we are bringing back the grants committee for CWPA, and we are updating that to be 2 strands of funding, one for research, one for administrative work. And they will offer a workshop, like you will partner with some people to offer a workshop particularly on seeking grants and seeking funding, especially for administrative work, because we know that there are not tons of funding opportunities out there, and if they exist, we don't know how to even put everything together for a proposal or for an application. So Joan, because she's been successful with that in the past, so she offered to lead a workshop on that topic. So details will come soon once we have finalized everything. But thank you, that means that we were on the right track talking about that. And we decided that it's not just about research, because many WPAs may not have to do research because of their work conditions or their institutional type, but they definitely need grants to do some administrative work, and maybe that will help them get the ball rolling with other projects or get institutional funds for different projects they are doing. So look for more information about that coming up. Any final thoughts on any of these things? So, first of all, that's why we need you as members of the organization, because, I mean, I know I'm speaking on behalf of the 80 members present here, that there is no way we could have come up with these ideas on our own. That's why we have more minds, more diverse ideas, more diverse WPAs in the organization, because otherwise we will continue to work in the vacuum or in isolation from our members. And this is a last thing we need. So this is really important work. You bring a lot of richness and wealth of information and ideas to the organization that will keep us going forward, that will keep us vibrant and relevant to you, and will help us stay connected, because if we are not doing what you want us to do, there is no way we'll stay connected. So please join the organization if you're not a member yet. I think there was a handout about benefits of being a member, right, Kelly? But feel free to reach out to any of the AD members, and we'll be happy to tell you about the benefits of becoming a member. One more thing. I know you've received tons of emails from me already, and I don't want to say I apologize, but sorry, not sorry. But expect 2 more emails coming from me very soon. Actually, it's going to be today. I'm going to share those slides with everybody who's been here at the conference. And for you, if you have more thoughts to share, that things that came to you after, because this is usually how it happens to me. Like, I have the dumbest ideas when we're discussing things, and then afterwards, like, oh, I have this brilliant idea. Where was it when we were at the meeting? So if you are like me, please share all these brilliant ideas that come to you after, not that these were dumb ideas. That's not with me after. And again, in the spirit of inclusion, everybody who wasn't able to be here at this moment or join us on the live stream, then they can again have their voice heard and share their ideas with us. And Kelly and I, yes, I volunteered her, no problem, will put together all these ideas. And together, after we receive the final report from OEC, we will see between the recommendations they make and all the ideas we've heard here and via email later. These 2 points together will help us move forward and know which direction you want us to move forward. Where's the mic?
I just want to conclude just with a thank you to Lillian, because I just want everybody to acknowledge this is volunteer labor. And people are doing this because they want WPAs to have what they need to do their job better. And people are doing this because they want WPAs to have what they need to do their jobs better, and it's a community building organization. And that's just, that's why we're doing this. So I just hope that we can be in community and you can take a small part and help, and we need you guys, really. And I just appreciate, Lillian, that you are leading and moving forward during the time that, it's a pivotal moment for our organization. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kelly. And I just need to emphasize that we wouldn't be here today as an organization if it weren't for Susan Thomas' work over the last couple of years. She was working behind the scenes most of the time, but not for us as officers or AD members. She's done a lot, and all the other work is her work. Like, I was so sad that she couldn't be here with us this time. And I told her, like, you should be there to see the fruit of your labor over the last couple of years. But she had some personal issues, so she couldn't join us. So I'm just building on what has been done over the last couple of years and previously. Of course, we have amazing people who led this organization in the past. One of them is actually present with us here, Shirley Rose. And I'm honored and privileged to continue that work that we started. One last slide. And one more QR code. So keep the conversation going. We don't want this to end now as you leave Reno. You're not going anywhere. I created a new email, and as you can see, it's not a good idea to create an email at 4 in the morning before being caffeinated, because I did it WPA rather than WPAs. So noted. But this is going to be like kind of like organization email, so I can have some separation between my personal inbox and organization work, because the last, like, CWPA hijacked my inbox for the past few weeks. And I need to leave my inbox back, so. On social media, we have Facebook group, we have Twitter, we have YouTube channel, and we hope to have somebody who can actually initiate more conversations through these channels. I mean, I started them, but there is no way I can do this moving forward consistently or sustainably. So, but that QR code will take you to all our accounts. So please subscribe, join us, follow us, and talk to us. Talk to us about any ideas you have in mind, any suggestions, any needs, and it's like, oh, we haven't seen this, can you do this? So, or we love this, so can we repeat that or do it differently next time? So please talk to us, keep the conversation going, because again, I cannot do anything alone. The EB is already like, we have a lot on our plate in the coming few weeks, sorry, the coming months. That was a common mistake. So please, we need you. We need you so badly to join the organization, be involved in, and be engaged in our work in the coming year. Thank you one last time for making this conference happen. When people were thanking me or the co-chairs, and again, I don't have the words to say about these guys. I literally, if we didn't have proposals, if we didn't have presentations, we wouldn't have a conference. So thank you for doing the amazing work at your institutions and being ready to share it with us here at the conference. And hope we'll have a 2024 conference somewhere to announce soon, so we can see you again next year. Safe travels back home, and it was an honor to serve you as speaker. And look at us, 2 minutes before time. Yes.
Thank you.